Welcome to Business Leader Breakthroughs, where we help unlock the potential in you, your teams, and your business. I'm your host, Ryan Castle, along with Dr. Mike Ashby. We'll share insights, experiences, and stories on achieving breakthrough success in business and life. To learn more, click the link in the episode show notes or go to thebreakthrough.co. Now let the breakthroughs begin. Mike, let's talk about failure.
I love failure.
It's got such negative connotations, the word failure.
Yeah, it's because it sucks.
It does, but there's an upside to failure, isn't
Yeah,
there?
there is. We talk about embracing failure, and we talk about failing to learn, and it sometimes feels as though we set about to fail in order to learn. That's how it feels. Like, you notice how I cross my arms then?
Yeah, uncomfortable. I was reminded yesterday, I was running a collab group with some business leaders, and one of the owners here, shout out to Matt Duda from eBoss, he said, "Hey Ryan, how did that product development go last year?" And I was like, actually Matt, that was 2 years ago. Time flies in lockdown maybe. But the immediate thing that came to mind was, we did an amazing job of getting that product to market.
Sure did.
We'd been overseas, we'd attended a conference, and I think there was some interesting aspects to it, and from a cultural perspective and experience, but what it did give us was a really fantastic clear headspace for you and I particularly to...
Other than
the night in the bar?
Yeah. Other than the night in the bar and the day after, that was not a clear head.
No, but the contribution to the San Francisco singing community was epic. Okay, it was a contribution. Most of the other days we did have clear heads.
Yes, we did.
And it was amazing for us to be away from the daily operations of the business to actually think about what we were looking to achieve. And we walked away from that with a 90-day plan to build a new product.
Yeah, we did the work around what that plan looked like in detail. It was the what we now call our Ginger Crunch session, which was came about because we would set aside a couple of hours. One of the learnings, I guess, was the value of just spending a couple of hours really drilling into something to get it done. And one of the kind of rituals we developed was that we would have a contest about whose Ginger Crunch was better, and I believe that it is unanimous, isn't it, that Francesca's Ginger Crunch is...
Correct. The trophy goes to...
El Primo. So that was actually one of the learnings from all of that piece was the value. We've got a session tomorrow, which is just kind of diving deep into it. So yeah, we did the plan.
And then we came back and talked to our team about what we were looking to achieve. And how did they get in behind the plan?
Yep.
And we reprioritised some things that we already had on the go, because it wasn't like people were sitting around with nothing to do. And we got really clear around what that was, and it really touched every aspect of our business, from product creation to content,
technology, platforms, new platforms.
Yep, new platforms, marketing, sales, kind of the whole suite. And to see us actually deliver on that, we were doing milestones in our 90-day plan. We were doing weekly scrums, and we absolutely got it to market in the 90 days.
We did.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would we rate the financial success of that product?
Do we have to use a whole number?
It has to be a whole number.
And then it'll be 1.
Yeah, it was a 1. It was a 1. And that was what I was discussing with the group yesterday. And look, from a pure product perspective, it was a flaming failure.
Yes. It's epic.
And I am so stoked that we did it.
Yeah. Why are you so happy with that?
We learnt so much.
Yeah.
And I know it's easy to try and
levels.
go, we'll explain that failure away with our learnings. Yeah. Actually, we would not be the company we are today, or with the products we are today, if we hadn't been through that build on that product.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about fast, effective digital content production.
Yep.
We learned that online learning only is not the answer. It's got to be blended. You've got to have, yes, you can provide content around key messages and things to be learnt, but actually embedding that learning has to have lots of other things around it, which we've now built into our follow-on products, which has been amazing. I think it also helped us start thinking about our target market.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
The kind of the aspirations we had for that product was a very online, marketing driven. I think we've gone, that's just not who we are. You know, we're about connecting directly with people via our products and via our partners, and it helped us start shaping where we could deliver value in the areas that we were good at.
And the recognition, you know, the blended piece, the online, offline, the kind of, that also applied to the marketing piece, was that this is not a thing that people buy online necessarily. Not at that kind of price point anyway. You know, you might do a Udemy or something like that, but that's a different part of the market, and we don't want to be in that market. Yeah.
So I was reflecting back to Matt and the other leaders that I was talking to, going, yeah, absolutely, it was a failure, but what we learnt from it we wouldn't be the company we are today without it. It was really valuable. And I guess the question for our listeners and viewers is, what have you failed at recently? Because if you haven't failed, what does that mean of your willingness to try things, do things differently, give it a whirl? Because if you're always doing what you've always done,
always get what you've always got.
Yeah.
And it's interestingly, when you think about it in that timeline, it was after we'd launched that we got underway with AMP, which has been our most successful product and program ever, and is now actually a complete family and a whole different sort of scope, because we've had other failures which we've been able to learn from and develop from. You know, you don't learn a lot from success necessarily. It's quite hard to go, well, what are we really good at? Well, we're pretty much good at everything really, because we're nailing it. What can you tell about that? You know, how do you improve that? Because that's another case of, if we're good at it and we get these results, then we keep doing it and we'll always get those results, except that we don't. You know, it's the old saying, kind of definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different outcome. Actually, in business, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expect the same outcome. Because the market shifts, the competitors shift, the industry shifts, things are changing all the time. So, you know, in some ways, I often think that the biggest trap that we suffer from is success.
Absolutely, because I think if that product we were talking about had been mildly successful, we would have kept chasing it and kept chasing it and kept chasing it, going, oh no, look, it's going okay, it was actually great that it was just a complete disaster, because it was like, well, that doesn't work, so we need to think about something else, and it was the evolution of much better things.
You know, an epic failure, if you're going to fail big, right? Just fail and get as close to zero as possible, because anything much north of that creates ambiguity and you just don't know. So it's a tricky one. It's kind of, you know, another one of my favourite sayings, a thicker whip won't make a dead horse go faster. And, you know, if you're just almost there and you just beat it a bit harder. Little
framework that I'll credit to the chairman of our board, Dan Meiklejohn, who I'm sure it's not his original work, but something that he references quite often is if you're in that zone of going, oh, we've kind of got this product or this customer segment or this supplier group that we're just not quite sure whether it's turning into the dead horse or not. He uses that nice quadrant framework of going, what are you going to delete? What are you going to develop? What are you going to grow? And what are you going to milk? I've used that in all sorts of things. We've been looking at our product suites, when we've been looking at composition of our team, when we've been looking at products, customers, suppliers, you know, the whole thing.
It's a great way to think about it.
It's a great way to dive in and kind of go, where would we continue to put effort? What are we going to let go of? Let's talk further about one of our experiences that we had around a customer that we were very excited, or a prospect that we were very excited about. For those of you that are not on video, Mike is currently deep breathing just to ease his anxiety around this experience. It was a prospect that we felt could be game-changing for our organisation, had the potential to probably do something like double turnover. So it was significant. And again, the very best thing that could have happened to us is that we didn't land it.
Actually it is.
And we're again not just excusing away the failure to convert.
Look, it probably would have killed us. In retrospect, it probably would have killed us and sent us crazy in the process. And that's not just kind of post-fact rationalisation, it's called. That's a realisation. Holy shit, what were we thinking? Which is good. You know, we actually went up, and as somebody said to me, you know, you've shifted up to another level, You've kind of lifted the whole thinking. And even though that thinking wouldn't have been enough to actually deliver on what we promised, it opened up our thinking way wide. And I think some of the stuff that we learned was, in retrospect, we were too constrained by our own version of how our program had to work. And it wasn't until the last minute of the last day before the presentation was kind of, oh, why are we just sort of sticking to this bit? We've got all these other content and all these other possibilities. But we didn't wrap our heads around that fast enough. So we were not flexible enough. We were not tuned into the customer's real needs. Neither were they, to be fair, but we should have known better what they were after and what we needed to be about. And there's some of that stuff that you can't do until you've done it once and got it wrong. So, you know, straight after that, when I kind of reflected on the feedback that we got, which was very helpful and, you know, very clear and direct, although we're pretty sure there were 6 other reasons why we did, but anyway, let's not go there. I sent out an email to a bunch of people with whom we had discussions that hadn't kind of moved it forward, and I just went out and said, look, you know, we've just been reflecting. I used COVID as a pretext. The world has changed, and here's how we're thinking about change. You know, we've got an offering which is more flexible, better priced, you know, 2 or 3 things. And from those 4 emails, 2 people came back and said, let's talk. And one of those conversations has continued since then. And the thinking is now evolving, not just from being too rigid here, but to a whole bunch of possibilities. We're now talking, you know, we've been talking about a product, a 12-month product. We're now talking about a multi-year leadership development platform, for want of a word, this is one product, it's the entry product, and then it goes off into a whole range of other learning paths that people can be flexible about, that we work with, and we understand what we have to do to support. You know, suddenly the world has opened up, and it really came off that failure. We wouldn't be doing that. We would just be putting people through that product, you know, as many as we could, and watching the revenue kind of decline. Instead, we've got an opportunity to go back to something that we've traditionally done very well, which is had very long-term client relationships, where we've evolved and they've stayed with us through that evolution, 5, 10, 15 years, some of them. So it's, you know, we wouldn't be there. I often reflect on that. It's not a rationalisation. Glad we didn't win it, actually, and boy, have we learned some stuff.
And we've seen it shape so many different aspects of our business, our product design, our platform design, our customer experience design, how are we actually going to deliver this not just as a product but as an experience to people. It's shaping our marketing, it's shaping our sales conversations, you know, it's touched everything. And the bit that I reflect on is you know, pat on the back for us, and I think you particularly, because you're very good at this kind of reflective review and seeing where markets are going. No, you're actually pretty good at it. Pretty good. You're very good at it in general, but
Thank you.
It's very easy. You know, all organisations go through exactly what we have, where they thought they were going to land the big sale and it didn't happen. And it's really easy to default to what a bunch of they don't know. If only they knew better, you know, and just kind of blame it all on the outcome. Zero learning, zero reshaping, and you're straight back into market trying to resell the thing that someone just said no to.
Or you're moderately successful. Actually, one of the great examples of this, how many failures do you have to have? Well, as many as it takes to be successful. You know, the All Blacks, when Graham Henry took over in 2003, they'd just been kicked out of the World Cup. They'd underperformed. The culture was pretty rancid. There was a lot of poor leadership inside the group. It had been really kind of, you know, run into the ground pretty much, the All Blacks brand. And they had a massive leadership session. Graham Henry, Brian Lahore, Richie McCaw was part of it. Tana Rimana, obviously, Ruben Thorne, you know, they were all the senior people, and they brought in others from outside. I can't remember all of them. Wayne Smith was there, of course. And they had a big conversation about what the All Blacks had to be. And Brian Lahore came up with the kind of the founding principle, which was better people make better All Blacks. And that set them on a strategy that they continued with increasing success. So successful that they hit 2007 thinking they were going to win. And we all know what happened. So they had to pick themselves up from an even more epic failure. You know, they'd been so good, and then this huge epic failure. But that was, you know, Graham Henry and the team Steve Hansen was there as well. Whoops, did I leave him out? Did I? Oh shit, sorry Steve. Sir Steve.
I'm sure he doesn't mind being left out of the failure. You probably, if you just talk about his wins in 2011 and 15.
And then Hansen was really the architect in the 2011 win, I quickly point out. So, you know, they kind of had to rebuild again, and they'll all say that was the second time we had to kind of learn from a really epic failure. I remember I was in San Francisco that time too, 2007, and I texted my brother and said, "How do we get on?" He said, "Don't come home." And I was on the flight from San Francisco to back home. I'll get there and it'll be a joke. It was stunning. But that was the genesis of that team that not only won World Cup, actually won 2. So created a platform for that long term. And if Eddie Jones hadn't kind of really stuck something in the Englishman's porridge, you know, who knows? Yeah. But it was those 2 failures that taught them the most.
Yeah. Which does lead us to a whole other topic which we won't cover today around resilience and the willingness. And I think every insight you get from a successful person, a successful organisation, they've had to deal with failure at some point. They've had to be resilient, get back up and go again. Yeah. And resilience is a key ingredient, and the ability to learn from that. What didn't go right? What would we keep? What would we ditch? What would we do more of? What new things do we need to add in? So I think in your organisations, if you can have a culture of acceptance of failure, a willingness
Embracing.
to fail, willingness to failure, but most importantly, debriefing after your failure, and going, what's our learning? How do we avoid it in the future, and how do we do better? Yeah. It's such a powerful thing for us as individuals, for us as leaders, for our teams, and fundamentally for our organisations as well.
And look, the only failure is the failure to learn, and every failure has in it the seeds of learning if we're prepared to look past the kind of the wounded pride, because that's often what it's about, the bruised ego, and the willingness to look in the mirror and say, yeah, we didn't do that properly, we didn't do that right. That's what enables us and frees us up to be more successful. But we, personally and as an organisation and as a business partnership, we totally ascribe to that. In every failure there is something to learn. What do we learn? What do we learn? And that's what a learning organisation looks like. Not learning of some from successes, because we have.
We have. I laugh because there are moments at the Breakthrough where we go, we're sick of learning. Yeah. We've had enough learnings. We don't want to. We just like the successes. Thanks.
I'm sick of personal growth.
Sick of personal growth and learning. Yeah. But look, it goes with the territory of what you do, and I think it's, as an organisation, we reflect on those failures well, and we do learn from them. Yeah. And it's helped us shape our organisation to what it is today, and the experiences that our customers and the results we're delivering for them totally attributed to a lot of that learning that we've done.
Look, we're in the midst of, and I know we've often been poised. This one feels different. I swear it feels different. But we do, we've got some really wonderful opportunities right in front of us at the moment, and they wouldn't have happened if our earlier strategies had been as successful as we hoped. Instead, they were moderately successful, but that's not enough. You've actually, I guess that's the other thing. What do you call a failure? Is it the zero sales, or close to zero, or is failure? You think about our distribution strategy, for example. Was it it's not been the kind of glowing success that we wanted, and you could just say, oh, that's good enough. Actually, no, be tougher than that and say, no, that's failed. If it hasn't delivered at that level, it's a failure. And that then leaves us willing and open to other channels. And, that's where we are now. More to come.
More to come.
Watch this space.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd probably so many thoughts. We could go for hours, but let's wrap that episode here. So our call out to you today is reflect in personally with your teams and with your organisation. When was the last time that you failed?
Yeah.
What was the learning? Did you actually take the time to reflect, or did you just excuse and blame it away on something else?
Yeah.
Keep being resilient, people.
Great questions. Great advice.
Thanks, team. See you on the next one.
Cheers, Ryan.
Bye.
See you, everybody.